So I think I might be dead, Mr. Iscariot. And I'm a little concerned about that because I don't think my soul's ready for judgment. But nobody else has so far corroborated that I'm dead, so I just don't bring it up. But the fact is that if this is a dream, it's the longest damn dream I've ever endured. And really, I really miss my wife, Mr. Iscariot. Is it all right if I tell you that? Oh, I remember. I was with these two girls that night when I first seen my wife, Mr. Iscariot. It was a party at Jimmy Rayburn's house. Because Jimmy's mama worked till midnight, so he had the house to himself. And me and these two girls, Susie Heller and Della Mae Robbins, we were just smoking, talking out on Mrs. Rayburn's deck away from the party. Oh, I was depressed over something or other, probably because school was ending. Plus, I had been in the school play. I'd played Tom in the Glass Menagerie. It was the first time I'd ever acted, and everyone said I was real good. But now the play was over, and school was almost over. And for the part in the play, they had given me this real short haircut, like 1940s style. And my ears, Mr. Iscariot, I don't know if you can notice, but they stick out a little bit. So with the short haircut and all, I was feeling a little self-conscious and dumb and anyways, just not too cheery. So anyways, I'm out there on the deck talking to Susie and Della. And all of a sudden, I see this girl inside at the party. She had, I guess, just arrived, and she had on a red jacket. It was a cheerleading jacket from the high school just across the state line in Virginia, the Red Raiders. And I remember all I saw was blonde hair and a red jacket and this smile that was, oh, even from a distance, just kind of electrifying to the heart, you know? About a minute later, sliding door to the deck opens, and this girl, she comes out by herself, and she's headed towards us. Turns out she's friends with Della from back in the day. From, I don't know, Girl Scouts, brownies, something like that. Anyways, she walks over, and she was so beautiful that I remember thinking to myself, and this is exactly word for word what I thought, I ain't even gonna bother talking to this girl. So she comes over, says hello, and I just excuse myself right off the deck. Head back inside, fixing to say my goodbyes and skedaddle. And anyways, I try to leave, but then Jimmy hands me a beer. Somebody starts passing a bottle of Rebel Yell. And before you know it, bong hits and whatnot. And anyways, a little later, I'm sitting on the couch when this girl, my future wife, she just comes up to me by herself, and she says, I saw you in that play the other night. You made me cry. 2 days later, we went out on a date. On the way back, I was driving her home, and we passed by this house where my friend Dave Hoagie used to live, who had died. I hadn't been by the house since he passed. The family didn't live there no more, but when I saw the house, I got struck with this feeling, and I asked her if she wouldn't mind if we just pulled up in front of that house and just sat for a moment. She said sure, so I parked, and we just sat in the car for a while, quiet, not saying nothing, and before I knew it, Mr. Iscariot, I was tearing up, because this kid, he had been a real good friend of mine, And then I just started crying, Mr. Iscariot. I couldn't help myself, and I couldn't shut it off, and I was real embarrassed. And she just held me. Well, tears and snot and whatnot just poured out of me and onto her little white sweater. And she didn't mind about that. Oh, she didn't mind at all. At some point, I drove her home, and we got to her door, and we started to kiss. And I'll tell you, it was like, well, God, it was like peaches and dynamite. And before I left, I apologized to her about the crying and whatnot. And she said, don't be a jackass, Butch Honeywell. And I smiled. But then I went on to explain my meaning, which was, if you want a girl to think you're sensitive or something, then maybe taking her to the house of your dead friend and crying all over a pretty white sweater might be a good way to pull it off. And you know what she said to me? She looked at me for a good long while, with them all the way dazzling eyes of hers. And she said, well, if it was a trick, then I'm tricked. 3 years into our marriage, I took this job teaching at the state college. I was popular with the students because I found a way to make them want to learn. One night at the end of the semester, they took me out for beers. I ended up having an assignation with one of the co-eds, a young lady named Lucy. And I went home that night, got into bed next to my wife, drunk as a skunk. And I remember before I passed out, I was looking at her. I always used to like to look at her while she was sleeping because she always looked so good. I had this nickname for her. I used to call her my little baby dinosaur because that's how she looked like when she slept. Like one of them cute cartoon little baby dinosaurs. Like a little brontosaurus, but cute. Anyways, next morning I woke up and she was still sleeping. And what I had done the night before came back to me. And I looked at my wife. And boy, she looked exactly the same as always. But somehow she just wasn't my little baby dinosaur no more, you know? And she woke up and she didn't know nothing about nothing. And everything was exactly the same, as if the night before had never happened. Except it wasn't the same. And I knew it. And I had no idea why I had done what I'd done. But I'd done it. And it couldn't be changed. My girl, she got up and fixed blueberry French toast with maple walnut pecans. Oh, I didn't eat it. No way I could have eaten it. Nothing was ever the same after that morning, Mr. Iscariot, you know? I tried a lot of things to make it better. The only thing that did was more beer. And women. Do you know who W.H. Auden was, Mr. Iscariot? W.H. Auden was a poet who once said, "God may reduce you on Judgment Day to tears of shame, reciting by heart the poems you would have written had your life been good." She was my poem, Mr. Iscariot. Her and the kids. But mostly, her. You cashed in silver, Mr. Iscariot, but me, I threw away gold. That's a fact. That's a natural fact.